Ladies and gentlemen, let us take a moment to reflect on the essence of life's journey. Each one of us faces seasons of adversity, times when the road seems uncertain and the weight of our challenges feels unbearable. But I want you to consider this. What if the very hardships you face are not roadblocks, but stepping stones? What if these moments of trial are orchestrated opportunities for growth, refinement, and ultimately blessings? When you prioritize God in your life, something profound begins to happen. Your perspective shifts and your entire outlook on the challenges you face transforms. Putting God first means that you place His will, His purpose, and His guidance above your own personal desires and ambitions. This is not an easy task, but it is one that holds immense power and potential to turn your hardships into blessings. In life, we all have personal goals, dreams, and plans we want to accomplish. We often set timelines, make decisions based on what we think is best, and expect things to work out according to our vision. But the truth is, our vision is limited. We see only what's directly in front of us, our immediate wants and needs. God, however, sees the full picture. He sees the purpose behind every obstacle, the lesson behind every delay, and the blessing hidden within every hardship. When we make the conscious decision to put God first, we allow Him to guide us according to His plan, which is far greater than anything we could imagine for ourselves. Prioritizing God's purpose means stepping aside and saying, God, what do you want from me? What is your plan for my life? It means trusting that His way, though it may not always align with your own, is ultimately the best way. This requires a level of surrender that many of us are uncomfortable with. We don't like giving up control, especially in the face of difficulties. When hardships arise, our natural instinct is to fix things ourselves, to take matters into our own hands, and to find the quickest path out of discomfort. But when you put God first, you realize that the very hardship you're facing could be part of a divine process that is shaping you into who you are meant to become. You see, God does not waste anything. Every challenge, every setback, and every difficulty has a purpose when God is in control. When you put Him first, your hardships are no longer random occurrences or unfortunate events. They become tools in God's hand to mold you, refine you, and prepare you for the greater things He has in store. This doesn't mean that God causes every hardship, but it does mean that He uses every hardship. He takes what was meant to harm you and turns it into something that will bless you, strengthen you, and elevate you. Let's take a moment to consider how this works in practice. Imagine you're facing a difficult season in your career. You've been working hard, giving your best, but things just aren't going the way you expected. Promotions are delayed, recognition is withheld, and you feel like you're stuck in a rut. The frustration builds and you start questioning your decisions, your abilities, and even your future. Now, if your focus is solely on your own desires, this hardship can feel like a dead end. It can lead to bitterness, discouragement, and even giving up. But when you put God first, you begin to see this season differently. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is God trying to teach me through this? You begin to trust that there is a reason for the delay, that there is a lesson in the frustration, and that God is using this period of difficulty to prepare you for something better. Maybe this is a season of growth where God is developing your character, teaching you patience, and refining your skills for a promotion that is far greater than the one you initially sought. When you prioritize God's purpose, you shift from seeing your hardship as an obstacle to seeing it as an opportunity for growth and transformation. This principle applies to every area of life: relationships, finances, health, and personal development. Putting God first in your relationships means trusting Him to bring the right people into your life at the right time, even when loneliness or disappointment feels overwhelming. Prioritizing God in your finances means trusting that He will provide for your needs, even when the numbers don't add up and you're facing financial strain. It means making decisions based on faith rather than fear, knowing that God's provision is greater than any temporary setback. When you prioritize God's purpose in your life, you also open yourself up to His blessings in ways you may not expect. Sometimes the very thing you're holding on to, the job, the relationship, the plan, is what's holding you back from receiving God's best. By putting God first, you allow Him to remove what is hindering you and replace it with something far greater. This doesn't always happen immediately, and the process is often uncomfortable. But as you trust in God's purpose, you will begin to see that what once seemed like a hardship was actually a necessary part of your journey towards something better. Putting God first transforms how you experience hardships. It moves you from a place of frustration and confusion to a place of faith and anticipation. You no longer see difficulties as barriers, but as stepping stones toward your destiny. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow closer to God, to deepen your trust in Him, and to experience His blessings in ways you could never imagine. Through this process, your hardships are not just turned into blessings, they become the very tools that shape you into the person God created you to be. Endurance through faith is one of the most powerful concepts that can transform how we experience hardship. When life presents us with trials, whether they are personal, financial, or relational, it is easy to feel overwhelmed and discouraged. The natural response for most of us is to seek a way out of the difficulty as quickly as possible. We may ask ourselves, why is this happening to me, or how long will this last? However, when we put God first, we begin to understand that there is a different approach to facing challenges. Instead of rushing to escape, we are called to endure. But not just any kind of endurance fueled by faith. Faith is a deep trust in what we cannot yet see. It's the belief that despite the current circumstances, God is working behind the scenes for our good. It is not passive but active. Endurance through faith means standing firm in the face of adversity, not with resignation, but with confidence that God has a purpose and plan for every situation. It is the ability to keep moving forward, trusting that there is a reason for the hardship and that something greater is being prepared for us on the other side. When you face trials, your faith in God becomes your anchor. Imagine a ship at sea during a storm. Without an anchor, the ship would be tossed around at the mercy of the wind and the waves, drifting wherever the current takes it. But with a strong anchor, the ship remains grounded even though the storm rages around it. That is what faith does in our lives. It keeps us grounded and steady when everything else seems unstable. Endurance through faith allows us to remain firm, not because the storm has disappeared, but because we trust in the one who holds us through it. Faith also gives us the perspective to understand that hardships are temporary. One of the most comforting promises in Scripture is that trials and suffering are not eternal. While they may last for a season, they are not our final destination. Endurance through faith means holding on to the truth that this hardship, no matter how painful or difficult, will pass. It's the understanding that we are walking through the valley, not living in it. And as we continue to put one foot in front of the other, guided by faith, we draw closer to the blessings that God has prepared for us on the other side. But why is endurance so important? Why doesn't God simply remove the hardships from our path when we pray or seek Him? The answer lies in the fact that endurance produces something in us that we cannot gain any other way. It builds character. When you endure hardship through faith, you are being strengthened both spiritually and emotionally. Each time you trust God through a challenge, your faith grows. You become more resilient, more patient, and more compassionate. Endurance develops within you a maturity that prepares you for the greater things that God has in store. Think about a person training for a marathon. The runner doesn't wake up one day and decide to run 26 miles without any preparation. They begin with shorter distances, gradually increasing their endurance through training. Each run, no matter how difficult, builds their strength and stamina. In the same way, God allows us to endure hardship because it is part of our spiritual training. Each challenge we face strengthens our faith, increases our spiritual endurance, and prepares us for the next stage of our journey. Endurance through faith brings us closer to God. In times of hardship, we often come to the end of our own strength and realize our need for divine help. It's in these moments that we lean on God more than ever before. We learn to depend on Him for our daily strength, guidance, and comfort. This deepened reliance fosters a closer relationship with Him. The more we trust God during difficulties, the more we see His faithfulness in action. We begin to experience His peace, even in the midst of the storm, and His presence becomes a source of comfort and reassurance. Endurance also gives us the opportunity to witness God's power in our lives. When we endure in faith, we position ourselves to see God's hand at work. Often the greatest miracles and breakthroughs come after a season of hardship. But these blessings are only revealed to those who remain steadfast, trusting in God's timing and plan. By enduring through faith, we allow God to complete the work He is doing in our lives. We give Him the space to turn our trials into testimonies and our challenges into victories. Endurance through faith is not about avoiding pain or pretending that hardship doesn't exist. Rather, it is about facing those hardships with a confidence that God is with us, guiding us through them. It is about holding on to hope, even when circumstances seem bleak, and continuing to trust that God's promises are true. As we endure, we grow stronger, we develop a deeper relationship with God, and we are prepared for the blessings that await us on the other side of the storm. Endurance through faith transforms how we approach hardships. It shifts our focus from the difficulty of the present moment to the greater purpose that God is fulfilling in our lives. It gives us the strength to keep moving forward, trusting that our trials are temporary and that God is using them to build something greater within us. And most importantly, it brings us closer to God, allowing us to experience His faithfulness, His peace, and His power in ways we never could have imagined. Trusting God's timing, especially in the midst of hardship, is one of the most challenging yet rewarding aspects of faith. It requires letting go of our need for control, our desire for immediate answers, and our impatience for quick solutions. Yet, when we surrender to God's perfect timing, we open ourselves to blessings and outcomes far greater than what we could ever achieve through our own effort or understanding. Trusting in His timing turns what seems like delay, frustration, or even failure into an opportunity for divine intervention, growth, and transformation. Life often teaches us that timing is everything. We can have the right ideas, the right plans, and the right goals, but if they occur at the wrong time, they will not bear fruit. In the same way, God operates within a divine timetable that aligns perfectly with His purpose for our lives. While we may perceive certain seasons of waiting as unnecessary or painful, God sees them as essential parts of our journey. When we truly grasp this, it transforms how we endure hardship. Our human nature often craves instant gratification. In today's fast-paced world, we expect quick results, and when they don't come, frustration sets in. But God's timing doesn't follow the pace of the world. His timing is perfect, and it is designed to align our lives with His will. One of the key lessons in trusting God's timing is realizing that waiting is not wasted time. While we may feel like nothing is happening during these periods of waiting, God is often working behind the scenes, setting things in motion in ways that we cannot yet see. Consider the example of planting a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, you do not see immediate results. The seed is buried beneath the surface, hidden from sight, and for a time it appears as though nothing is happening. However, beneath the soil, that seed is undergoing a transformation. It is developing roots, gathering nutrients, and preparing to break through the surface when the conditions are right. In the same way, trusting God's timing means believing that even when we don't see immediate progress, God is working in the unseen areas of our lives, preparing us for something greater. During times of hardship, it can feel as though God's timing is off. We may question why He is allowing us to endure a prolonged season of struggle, or why the breakthrough we've been praying for hasn't arrived yet. But trusting God's timing requires a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, why is this taking so long, we should ask, what is God preparing me for? Delays in our plans are often God's way of protecting us, developing us, or positioning us for something better than we had envisioned. One of the greatest examples of trusting God's timing can be found in the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was given a vision at a young age that he would one day be in a position of great influence and authority. However, before that vision came to pass, Joseph endured years of hardship. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. At any point during those years, Joseph could have questioned God's timing and given up on the vision. But Joseph remained faithful, trusting that God's plan would unfold in due time. What Joseph couldn't see during his years of suffering was that God was preparing him. Each challenge he faced was not a detour, but a step toward his destiny. When the time was right, Joseph was elevated to a position of authority in Egypt, and his earlier hardships became the very experiences that qualified him for that role. Had Joseph not trusted in God's timing, he may have missed out on the fullness of the blessing that was waiting for him. His story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, God's timing is working for our good. Trusting in God's timing also teaches us patience and builds our faith. It's easy to trust when things are going according to our plans, but true faith is developed in the waiting. It's in those moments of uncertainty, when we don't have all the answers, that our trust in God deepens. We learn to lean not on our own understanding, but on His wisdom and guidance. And as we wait on His timing, we are transformed, our character is refined, our priorities are realigned, and our relationship with God grows stronger. Trusting in God's timing allows us to let go of unnecessary stress and anxiety. When we try to force things to happen according to our own timeline, we often end up frustrated, burnt out, and disappointed. But when we surrender to God's timing, we release the burden of control. We begin to live with a sense of peace, knowing that God is orchestrating every detail of our lives, and that His plan is unfolding exactly as it should. This doesn't mean that the waiting is always easy, but it does mean that we can trust in the outcome. God's timing brings about blessings at the right moment, not a second too early or too late. Sometimes the very thing we are praying for isn't denied, but simply delayed until we are ready to receive it. God's timing ensures that when the blessing arrives, we are in the right place spiritually, emotionally, and mentally to handle it. What may seem like a delay is often God's way of preparing us for the magnitude of the blessing that's coming. Trusting God's timing is about surrendering our need for immediate answers and embracing the divine process that God has for each of us. It's about recognizing that waiting is not wasted time, but a crucial part of the journey where God is working behind the scenes, preparing us for the greater blessings He has in store. As we endure hardships, trusting in His timing brings peace, builds our faith, and positions us for the fullness of His purpose. When we trust God's timing, we align ourselves with His perfect plan. And in that we find not just relief from our trials, but the abundant blessings that come in His time. Putting God first in our lives transforms our hardships into blessings in ways we often cannot fully comprehend. By prioritizing our relationship with God, we cultivate a foundation of faith that enables us to endure life's trials with resilience and strength. We learn to navigate challenges through the lens of God's promises, trusting that He is at work in every situation, shaping us for our destiny. Endurance through faith empowers us to confront difficulties not with fear, but with a steadfast heart, knowing that each trial serves a purpose in our spiritual growth. We discover that hardships are not merely obstacles, but divine opportunities for character development and deeper reliance on God. As we trust in His timing, we let go of our impatience and embrace the process of preparation that leads to the fulfillment of His promises. Our journey of faith reminds us that while we may encounter storms and seasons of waiting, we do not face them alone. God walks with us, guiding us, strengthening us, and revealing His faithfulness along the way. The blessings that arise from putting God first are profound, transformed perspectives, renewed faith, and an unwavering hope that propels us forward. As we continue to seek Him in every moment of hardship, we will witness how He turns our struggles into testimonies, our pain into purpose, and our waiting into wonderful manifestations of His love and grace. So let us resolve to put God first, trusting Him completely, and allow Him to work all things together for our good. In doing so, we will find that even our greatest challenges can become the very catalyst for our most significant blessings.